In this video we are going to try to fix this C64, which gives us a garbled screen, and try to connect this SpeedDos plus floppy and make it work somehow. So place your bets. What's wrong with the C64? Pro tip, it's not the PLA. I already tested that in the last video, the Retro Packages 10 video. If you didn't see that, go and see that now. So welcome back to Retro's New Black. Today we're going to fix this yellow key C64, which has a very low serial number, not serials. But that is not its problem. Its problem is it just doesn't work. It just gives us some scrambled picture. No black screen this time. Bought this in this whole bundle with a SpeedDos floppy 1541, some books with questionable covers, some discs, and we are using two of my other breadbin C64s to fix this C64. So it's fixie time. Let's get to it. So if you saw my Retro Packages 10 video, you already know that if I switch on this machine, we only get this, which is not the usual startup screen. So I tried to switch out the PLA. It's not the PLA, so it's something more interesting. So the first order of business is to open it up, which I already did. So this machine came with the kernel switcher, which I temporarily pulled out and just put in the standard C64 kernel right here. I have no idea if this kernel works. Could be that the kernel is actually dead. We can pretty easily check that if we just use one of the SpeedDos. Oh no, we can't because it's a different socket. Yeah, but I think I have more kernel ROMs, so I will pull out the good old stack of C64 chips and see what's what. We have the original Commodore PLA. It's not the MOS PLA, but the C64, which is really a programmed PLA, which is much more reliable. So I already thought that this wouldn't be the issue. So what we are going to do first is we are going to pull all the not necessary chips, which are the CIA chips, the SID chip, and maybe even the ROMs. Not sure about that. And at least I guess it couldn't be this ROM, the kernel ROM, because I already tried using my EasyFlash 3 with the kernel ROM removed. So that gave me a different pattern, but still a scrambled screen. Could be the VIC 2, which is my most probable candidate right now. We could do a real diagnostic here and check with the scope and stuff like that, but since all of the chips, or most of the main chips, are socketed, I would like to get that out of the way before I start poking around this machine. Yeah, so let's do that. So, slight change of plans. I pulled the CIAs, the basic and character ROM, and the SID chip and the VIC 2. They're right here, and I will put them into one of the working C64s, so we are sure that the chips are good and it's no different fault on the board here. So let's clean this up, put it away, and grab one of the other C64s. So before we go and switch stuff out, let's check if the machine works. That looks pretty good. Look-see, all is good. Okay, so I will open this up and we'll take a look inside. So it doesn't seem to be the VIC 2 chip, because just switched that out. Works just fine. So that is good news, because VIC 2 chips, as you know, are expensive and hard to come by and irreplaceable right now. So I did switch out the basic ROM here and it did work just fine. So last but not least, we have the character ROM, which sits here, which is the 901225-01, which I will switch out now. Okay, that's in. Switch it on. And it works. Okay, so except for the CIAs and the SID, I have tested all the chips. So let's switch out the two CIAs and see what happens. So I did pull out the two CIAs, put in the original chips from here, the kernel ROM, the basic ROM, and the character ROM. And now we will see what happens if we use it without the CIA chips, which is that it still works, but the cursor's not blinking, and the keyboard won't work, and the tape drive won't work, but starts up normally. So let's put in the CIAs that are from the other machine. I mean, they look good. All the legs are there, no corrosion. First one's in. Let's see what happens. Interesting. Nothing happens. Oh, look at that. A scrambled screen. That kind of screams CIA dead. It's in there correctly, so all the legs are in. So let me pull this out again. It's really in there. Let's put in the other CIA. Let's see what that does. Okay, all the legs are in correctly. Switch it on. Oh, look. Okay. So that CIA seems to work. Good. So I assume that this CIA right here is dead. Ooh. Let's pull that out, put it in the other machine, and try one of the known good CIAs from that machine in the other machine, and then we will see what we get. Okay, the dirty, dead C64 is back on the bench. Let's put in all the chips again. I think we can leave out the SID chip for now, because we don't need that. But theoretically, that should work now with the CIA missing. So let's see what we get. Yay! Fixed a C64. So it is indeed a dead CIA, and I hope I have some spare lying around. So I did indeed find another CIA in one of my spare bins, but there are some things to note. First thing is, we didn't test the SID chip, which we will do, definitely. Put on the heatsink, or the top of this with a heatsink for the VIC-2 again. And we have the kernel switcher, which, as I noted in the last video, has a ripped off cable, which I have to fix here, so that the switcher works. I have to put this back in, put the basic ROM, the kernel ROM in here, which is this one, and then we're good to go. So let me do all these things and then see. But first, let's put in the CIA and see if this one works. Not quite sure. Let's see. Yeah, blinking cursor. That's good enough for me. Nice. So next up, I'm gonna fix this kernel switcher, put it back in, and then we're good to go and test the SpeedDos 1541. Okay, I will quickly try to do this on the fly, just putting in the cable in the hole and trying to use the existing solder on the backside. No idea if this works. Yeah, that worked. So I will put this back in. I think it was like that, but I'm not quite sure. and there's no marking. All the chips are facing that way, so I assume that is the way it's meant to go in. Put this in here, and then we try. And there's our classic C64. And now let's use this switch to switch. And we get SpeedDos Plus. Nice. Okay, so the ROM switcher works again. I guess I can close up the machine. Didn't try the SID yet, but we will still close up the machine. I'm not going to clean this now, but I will do a full refurb on the machine because it's a yellow key C64 and a very early one. So let me put this back together, hope without breaking it. Okay, so this is by far the ugliest cable I have ever seen in my life. Said that in the last video, but we will still be... No, we will not use this. And we have 1541 serial cable, which we also have to connect in addition to the SpeedDos connector, or the user port connector rather. Okay, grab the serial cable and the power cable. Let's connect it all up. Let's put this into the user port. I hope that it says open, which is up. I hope this connector is still in the right orientation, because I had to tape this close. Don't know if the connector is right, but we will find out in a second, I guess. Okay. So the drive doesn't spin up like it's supposed to, but okay. We have a SpeedDos prompt. Let me grab one of the disks. Let's say text print. I have no idea if these are... It says device not present error. Ah, okay. So I did switch it to 9 on this one, and here's another switch which I have no idea what it's good for. So let me quickly turn everything off, switch this to 8, switch it all back on, and let's try again. File not found error, but at least it works. It does something. So let me see. These may actually be PC disks. That would make total sense. Visa Star. No idea if this is a C64 program. Let me grab a C64 disk, which I know that it is a C64 disk, and try again. So I brought out my trusted Basil, the Great Mouse Detective, or Basil. Let's try it. And on the SpeedDos variant, you just push F5 and it does or tries to load, but it doesn't work. It just says file not found. That's unfortunate. So I have another dead 1541, or it's blinking here away, or we have to check what this thing does. So let's switch it all off again and see what happens now. Oh, look at that. It's actually loading and blinking. Man, I have no idea what that means. Okay, so that changed anything, whatever it did change. So the connector is in the right orientation. That's good to know. The drive kind of works. Quickly reset. Works. that also didn't work. Ah, okay, look at that. Looks a little off. Should read basal, but reads basy. So it doesn't quite get the data right. This seems to be misaligned head. Let's try another disk. Keyboard is a bit sticky. So that doesn't work. I guess I should do some read up on the SpeedDos ROM. Started reading about the SpeedDos stuff, and there are the F keys which have special commands, and all of the keys are pretty sticky and stucky, so they don't work all the time. So if you, for example, press F7, you should get a directory listing, which kind of works but gives us some scrambled text. But if I switch to the normal C64 kernel and do a load $,8 and a list, I get all this, which is perfectly fine. And if I do a load, I get all that, and I just loaded Boulder Dash. So let's see if we can actually start this. As I said, the keys are pretty sticky, and it just works. So the disk drive is totally fine. There seems to be something with the connection or with the SpeedDos ROM itself, either in the floppy where a SpeedDos ROM is, or inside the C64. So yeah, maybe we first check the connection, and then we open up the floppy, check the connection there, and go from there. The first thing I want to check is the connection inside the user port connector, and that is perfectly fine. As you can see, all the connections are soldered properly, so we can put that back, and that means that we now have to open the drive itself. So let's do that. Okay, that looks very different from what I expected. So there's something here. I don't know what that could be. Could be some kind of head detector. I don't know. We have the SpeedDos, which is pretty hot. All the cables done pretty well. So you could at any point revert this to a standard 1541 by just putting this CIA chip back in its original socket without this adapter and putting in the 1541 kernel. I have some cables here. I guess this is the one for the that cable should be the one to select the drive, the device number. All of the cables seem to be in place. There's nothing loose in here. Just try these. No, they're all fixed. So it's not a cable issue. So I would think that it's indeed a defective SpeedDos EEPROM. And theoretically we could take this, put it in the Mini Pro and try to read it. There's some logic here which I don't recall having on other SpeedDos devices. Let me push these a little. Maybe these are not okay anymore. That looks a little shifted right here. So maybe let's give this a try again and see if it works now. And if it doesn't, we can still read the SpeedDos ROM. So here's another twist for you. This thing actually has 3 kernels inside. And the third one being the Icewerder 64 soft floppy speed up. And that actually produces by pressing F1 a directory. If you go and actually loads, and if you press F5, it actually runs. And then it speed loads, hopefully, a game. The drive is a bit squeaky, it works just fine. So that brings me to the conclusion that actually the kernel inside the floppy is okay, because it does speed load with a Eisenwerder SpeedDos, which assumingly uses the same routines, because there's only one BIOS or kernel inside the 1541 than the SpeedDos, but that the SpeedDos kernel chip inside the C64, inside that kernel switcher, is indeed defective. So that is a working C64 with a SpeedDos or speed enhanced 1541 Eisenwerder floppy speeder thingy, which works just perfectly fine now. Even the SID chip, as you can hear, which we haven't tested until this moment. Yeah, so I guess all there is to do is to reburn, if that is possible, the SpeedDos EEPROM. And I will do this in the next episode. So for now, thanks for watching, and until next time. By the way, one last word. I wasn't expecting that the CIA could produce that garbled screen. So if you are as surprised as I am, well, congrats, I guess. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Retro is the New Black. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you like the video, please share. Every like, share, and comment helps a lot. Until next time, bye-bye.